I asked them to make a sculpture of me, but I just don't think that they've got the hands right. This week on Click, a digital art special, as we look at the works that could set the old masters spinning in their graves. And as these pieces give up the ghost, we'll also find out how you keep them alive in the decades to come. Even Webscape will take us on an artistic journey, so prepare to be enlightened. This week sees the start of art season here in London, when all the big art fairs descend on the city. Welcome to Click, I'm Spencer Kelly, and welcome to a show called The Other Art Fair, which opens in just a few hours' time, hence the frantic action going on in the background at the moment. Now, this place showcases a lot of innovative artists, and these guys are always open to using new technologies in their work. Hence, digital art is slowly gaining ground, but it does face that inevitable question: if you can create it using a computer with copy, paste and undo, is it really art? The Fine Art Society in London, bastion of, well, fine art. Proper art, like this. Only look a bit closer, and even here, something surprisingly modern is going on.
This is Transforming Vanitas Painting by the artistic duo Rob and Nick Carter. They have spent the last few years developing something which is fairly unusual. They're digital paintings. So what they've done is take an old master, and they've taken that painting from the past and they've brought it to life in the future by using cutting-edge digital technology. It's a painting of a dead frog, and the sequence lasts 3 hours, and it takes you from the frog at the very beginning when it's alive to a dead frog. The animators and digital team there, using 3D sculpting, brought all those techniques together here for the first time, really in this unique way to create an artwork.
The Moving Picture Company, the team behind the animation, usually work on film special effects. And it shows the detail is minute. Each of the maggots has been individually rendered to make the decomposition appear as realistic as possible. The finished article behind the frame is displayed on an iMac screen, selected for its non-reflective qualities.
The way it's presented, it's meant to look like a painting. It's in a custom-made Dutch Golden Age replica frame. It's a world first, and it's been really well received, and they've gone into museum collections already.
Selling for close to $100,000 a piece, Rob and Nick Carter's work plays with the line between digital and traditional art. Here, they reimagined and then brought to life a 17th century painting by Justus Jonker.
Originally, we were fascinated by the statistic that people look at artworks for between 4 and 6 seconds when they visit a museum, and this really struck a chord with us, and we were trying to create artworks that held the viewer for longer, and engaging the viewer for a longer period of time rewarded the viewer with seeing little bits of real-time activity within the pictures.
I think the stigma of artwork that plugs in essentially has really changed. I think people just accept it. Certainly now these works are in museums.
What I really, really love about these two is they just look like oil paintings. You can go right up close to them and they look like oil, but they're actually a pair of iPads. Part of the sell here is that the insects behave in an unpredictable and supposedly unrepeatable way. In that sense, at least, this work of art is unique. Except that it's not. Just like all digital media, video files, music files, works of art, you can make an exact replica of this just by copying the file. Hackers are yet to turn their attention to art like this, but to try and address this, the pieces are sold with a certificate of authenticity from the Fine Art Society.
To try and recreate this, to try and forge it, to try and copy it, to try and hack into this is completely impossible. Everything's been put in place. And I think what's really important to remember is that museums and institutions, they have to make sure there are ground rules in place for how to preserve these things, how to replace the screen when it wears out. All of these things are put in place right at the beginning of the artwork's life.
New display technology is providing new tools to digital artists. This breathing Venus is just breathtaking to look at. Using an ultra-high definition 4K screen, it's based on this 16th century painting by Giorgione. I have to say, it completely fooled me at first. The resolution of the screen was so high, I didn't notice the pixels. We have wondered recently what 4K screens are for. Well, maybe this is the answer. UK retailer John Lewis has commissioned a range of digital artists to make content for these very expensive 4K TVs, which it hopes to sell. Graffiti artist Inky took an illustration and animated it.
It was the first time I'd done something where all the art in a gallery is digital. But the richness, particularly on, I think it was the Samsung one that we were looking at with the sort of Van Gogh attempt, the colour depth on that is just incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
When I first saw these artworks, I naturally assumed that they were computer generated, but this is just the result of the artist shining a light down a good old-fashioned kaleidoscope, which is about as analogue as you can get.
This is going to be a landmark year for televisions in particular, and the way that we're seeing art translate not only on TVs but into smaller devices as well. You can have art on your smartphone, on your tablets, and all your devices moving forward.
The argument goes that all art is, in a sense, becoming digital. You can now access and explore much traditional art online, for example. And then there are the new forms like this. Japanese artist Kind has written code that generates watercolour-style paintings that are only viewable online. But some digital artists disagree.
We've really limited the amount of online footage of these films because it ruins the whole experience. The whole experience is seeing the work in the frame, on a wall, and spending time with it. Rather than fast forwarding, which we're all guilty of doing from time to time, and just trying to see things as quickly as possible, we want to do the complete opposite.
But why choose between a real gallery and a digital one? This is a virtual model of an art gallery that will, in reality, be built next year.
We're standing at the virtual banks of the River Thames and overlooking the entrance to the Paints and Borthwick Gallery.
On display inside, a piece of work called Translux by artists Rubido.
This is the first piece, which also acts as a portal.
So we can just walk through it and we access the second piece.
A video game engine lies behind this work, which invites visitors to explore the landscape the artists have created, but only during the opening days of the virtual gallery.
In this environment, the gravity was reversed. So in a way, we're playing with the laws of physics and creating our own rules.
Like offline exhibitions, after 3 weeks, it too will close. The file of the piece will then be sold as a limited series of 3 for around £5,000 a pop and will be presented to its buyers on a DVD. All other files relating to the work will be destroyed. The rest of us will be locked out of the artwork forever. New technologies will continually evolve creative opportunities. This piece analysed the brushstrokes that Van Gogh used in his famous Sunflowers and then extrapolated them out into a 3-dimensional realisation. These were then assembled into a 3D model and then 3D printed. Just a few years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. And it does make you wonder where digital art may take us next. I wonder whether Van Gogh would have used a 3D printer if he'd been around today. After all, it's really just another tool in the artist's palette, isn't it? Now here are some examples of the newest pieces of art that the 3D printer artists have been cooking up. The best thing about this concept for me is that you can make stuff that it would be impossible to create in any other way. You couldn't make casts for this stuff, and if you were to try and sculpt it, well, it would take you the rest of your life, wouldn't it? Here is a 3D printer which is currently laying down layers of plastic in the background. That's working on something brand new over there. And the guys behind this exhibit are really excited about the fact that higher resolution 3D printers, which use lasers to get increased accuracy, are now becoming more accessible. Okay, more digital art from Click in a couple of minutes after a look at this week's tech news.
Snapchat, the photo sharing app, which is supposed to cause users' photos to vanish after viewing, has had its central self-destruct feature compromised by another app. 350 million photos are shared daily on the platform, but now SnapHack claims to be able to permanently save photos without the sender's knowledge. In a separate development, the company has admitted to handing over unviewed photos to US law enforcement authorities. First Google Glass, and then the likes of Aura. 2014 is going to be a busy year for augmented reality glasses, and the market is set to get even more crowded with the introduction of the Cast AR specs, courtesy of a couple of ex-Valve software employees. These glasses work differently from other models. They're fitted with tiny projectors, which project 3D images onto reflective surfaces. A camera on the glasses tracks the wearer's head movements, and the user sees an image which looks like a 3D hologram. The project is, of course, being funded via Kickstarter. Google's facing a backlash over plans to use Google Plus social network data in adverts. The changes, which come into force in November, will see names and photos appear below the ads of businesses that Plus users have followed. As a protest, some users of the site have Schmittified their profiles, replacing their own photo with that of Google chairman Eric Schmidt. A similar scheme saw Facebook eventually shelling out $20 million in compensation after users weren't asked for permission. Google says users can opt out of the service though, if they find the right page, that is. And there's Wi-Fi at the bottom of Lake Erie. Well, kind of. The University of Buffalo in the US trialled an underwater wireless network there this week. Researchers used a laptop to pick up data about the lake from 2 submerged sensors. Currently, data gathered underwater is difficult to share quickly, which is why the team want to create a standardized underwater communication system for everyone. Can't see there being much of a format war there.
Now, one of the great things about traditional art is that 500 years after you paint it, you can still hang it in a gallery. Whereas a lot of the digital artworks we've been looking at rely on technology, screens, etc., which tend to go wrong every few years. So what happens when your expensive piece of digital art breaks down or becomes obsolete? We sent Jen Copestake to Karlsruhe in Germany to find out.
This is one of the most important digital artworks in the world. There's only one problem. It's broken. Fortunately, its home is the World Centre for Digital Art Restoration, the ZKM in Germany. And after a bit of tinkering, the experts here soon have it up and running again. It may not look like much, but this classic piece of digital art is worth over $1 million. Created in 1989 by Geoffrey Shaw, Legible Cities is one of the first real-time interactive digital artworks. The faster you pedal, the faster the words appear on the screen. The original software powering Digital Cities has already been ported, so it can now run on modern-day computer hardware. This process is time-consuming and very expensive. ZKM is the place to come if your digital artwork breaks down. This museum has the world's largest collection of native digital art. Many other pieces here rely on maintaining old hardware and equipment that is no longer being produced. This is Barcode Hotel, an early 3D digital work. It's from 1994. Let me show you how it's being powered. Away from the eyes of museum visitors, here in this cupboard, there's a purple Silicon Graphics computer. Now these became obsolete and out of production 16 years ago. The museum tells me they've got 10 of these left in storage, but they've no idea how long they're going to last. So it's up to the technicians here to try and prolong the life of these obsolete machines. This is Versailles Fountain. It is from 1993 and was made by pioneering digital artist Nanjun Paik. It's made of about 40 original American cathode ray TV sets, which are being repaired all the time. It belongs to a private collection in Switzerland, but they couldn't afford to maintain it themselves, so the ZKM spends around $8,000 a year on its preservation. Part of the team behind this work is Dorcas Mueller. She works in the museum's laboratory for antiquated video systems. Dorcas has 300 devices at her disposal to convert almost 50 different video formats from the mid-1960s through to the 80s into high-quality digital form.
We are in the middle of where it's at. So here on the table are all those old video machines. We need to play open reel video.
Right.
And the video pioneers worked with this open reel machines.
Oh,
and this is an antique Blu-ray disc.
Wow, what is that?
It's a laser disc, and it was used in the late 70s to play karaoke movies in bars and restaurants.
Wow.
Some of the installation, the loop installations in the exhibition were still running from laser discs just until a couple of years ago.
So the reason for collecting all this historic and obsolete equipment is to showcase the art in its authentic form. But in reality, this is not sustainable.
That is why we need a second strategy, which is migrating the work, migrating the data of the work to a different platform, or even porting the program to a different system, to a different computer system, which is quite complicated and quite expensive.
As well as migrating works, the files behind the art need to be stored. In the past, they were contained in this giant jukebox, dozens of CDs and DVDs holding just 1 terabyte of data. Now, these 6 drawers in the server room act as an archive. Each drawer holds 40 terabytes, and it's backed to magnetic tapes, which they say are more reliable. Of course, all these efforts aren't without controversy. There's no consensus in the art world on whether going to these lengths to preserve digital art is the right thing to do.
There are very different opinions. People thought that digital technology is without any substance, so it will exist over all the times. Yeah? It must just be copied from one hard disk to the other hard disk, which is not the only solution, because since we have system change in hardware and in software, the artwork is normally being lost quite soon. Most of the artists don't think about that.
Whatever the disagreements, classical digital art will be lost forever if preservation solutions don't evolve. And that means future generations would miss out on this $1 million digital experience.
Jen Copestake, and I'm pleased to say Jen at least didn't break the bike again. Now, artists will continue to find new ways of being creative, whatever the medium they choose. In fact, just this month in New York, British graffiti artist Banksy is proving just that point with his campaign of street art that features cars, trucks and audio tracks. Well, it's time for Kate Russell to be creative now, using the medium of Webscape on the vast canvas that is the internet.
Creativity is all around us, but if you can't get to the art, why not bring the art to you with the help of online projects like the Frieze Sculpture Guide, an app released this week on iOS and Android. Its primary function is to be a guide for those visiting the Sculpture Park in London, but art lovers from all over the world can download it to learn about the 20 contemporary installations featured in the park and their creators, including photos and audio descriptions.
Collectively, these sculptures are an expression of the fun, the naughtiness, the humour of the medieval masons who carved them as drainage points.
Another amazing artistic exploration takes us on a trip down the rabbit hole, with the kind of incredible visual journey that only the interactive web could deliver. Infinite Oz.
There are voice patterns. Familiar.
Gazing at this site as you sink deeper and deeper into the delightful graphics and lose yourself in the ambient sound effects and occasional quote from the book, it's hard not to imagine how Dorothy must have felt. We are definitely not in Kansas anymore.
If you need your internal location markers reset after such a fantastical journey, here's something a little closer to home. GeoFlickr pulls up a selection of geotagged public photos that are close to your location from popular image sharing platform Flickr. You can enter whatever location you want, so it could also be useful for checking out what sites might be worth seeing when planning a trip somewhere further afield. Got to the door and again I couldn't stop. Once you come back from that trip with a hard drive full of stunning digital photographs, give them a worthy home on the web with SmugMug. Choose a portfolio template and customize it as much and as many times as you like in order to elegantly display your digital life as a website. You can upload videos as well and even use the site to sell images to your fans. Unlike some of the other popular photo sharing sites, SmugMug is completely private and doesn't strip any of the metadata out of your photos and videos, which means a digital tag of your ownership and any other details you've chosen to include, like location and content, will remain embedded in your files wherever they travel on the web. This service isn't free, but I think you have to accept these days that if you're not paying for something, you can't expect to be treated like a customer, especially when it comes to image sharing. But you do get a free 14-day trial with SmugMug, and it's hard to resist this stunning platform that you can personalise for sharing your own creations. If you just want to share the odd file, take a look at Get. You can use it in any browser without any plugins or installations. You don't even need to register, although doing so will increase your free storage limit from 250 megabytes to 2 gig. There is a Chrome extension too if you prefer. What's different about this site is that it works in real time. So you upload your stuff and it doesn't need to have finished before you can share the link and others can start downloading it. You also get some nice statistics which will be useful if you're sharing content for promotional or work purposes. Use the links to share across the main social platforms or just email it to your recipient. This isn't an ultra-secure stash for sensitive files, although your files are semi-private, so only those with the direct download link should be able to find them. But it is a great tool for easy sharing if privacy isn't an issue.
What's going on?
As we've seen today, the web is a great playground, but you need to understand the dangers too. For some people, this can be a challenge and, dare I say it, crushingly dull.
True augmented reality became a way of life for us here in
Internet security specialists Trend Micro have taken the unusual step of turning a white paper on the subject of cybercrime, Project 2020, into a serialised web drama, Hollywood style. It turns the tough technical information into a relatable piece of fiction that we can all understand. Tune in at 2020.trendmicro.com, where episode 3 of 9 was released this week.
We may have a problem.
Death toll has risen to 90 in what experts are calling the biggest cyber attack of the century, the Great Switch Off.
Thank you, Kate. Kate Russell's Webscape, and those links are all up at our website, of course, if you missed them. bbc.co.uk/click, the address you need. You'll also find regular updates to your tech news and various old bits of the programme to watch there too. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, feel free to email click@bbc.co.uk, and you can get hold of us on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook too. That's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.